Hello everybody and welcome to this video on Venus's transit through Anuradha Nakshatra, which is going to be taking place from the 27th of November all the way through to the 7th of December 2017. Before we get into talking about this transit a little more in depth, I did want to mention that 2018 is just around the corner, and in preparing for that, I am now offering year ahead consultations to give you a look at what 2018 has in store for you. These are available in two separate options. One which gives you basically 3 events, and the other one which gives you 5 events for the year ahead. If you're interested in this, you can find a link in this video. Also, you can give this as a gift to any of your friends or loved ones for the holiday season. Okay. So let's talk about this transit. So first of all, let's talk about that annoying thing that happens to you every single morning. You wake up, the alarm goes off, right? It stirs you out of your sleep where you were just really nice and rested and comfortable. And then the next thing you know, you're awake and you got all this crap you got to deal with. Every single day, it's crap you got to deal with, right? And you don't want to deal with it. What do you want to do? What's the first thing you do usually? You usually turn over, you hit the snooze button on the alarm, and you just go back to sleep. Now, it might sound like I'm just kind of talking about like a complete load of rubbish, but I'm not. Especially if you think of that little thing that happens every day on a grander scale. Draw relevance, if you will, to the process of consciousness. Waking up is difficult. It's really damned challenging to have to wake up all the time, right? It's a lot of responsibility. Every single morning, we have to face a lot of responsibility. And somewhere in your life right now, there is a sense of responsibility and part of you that doesn't feel like you're really being respected. You feel vulnerable. You feel like, you know what you really need to do, but on a certain level, you don't really want to, because it's easier to just kind of, not take on the responsibility. Now, there's a reason for all of this. But first, let's go into talking a little bit about Anuradha Nakshatra. And in order to do that, let's understand the meaning of that word, okay? So, Anuradha, one of the translations of that is little Radha. And aside from the concept of Radha being the perfect devotee of Krishna, there is another meaning to that, which basically relates to a spark of lightning. So it's a little spark of lightning. It's that little spark of lightning that awakens us. It awakens us to the fact that there is something bigger, right? There's something bigger than us. How do we respond to that? Well, we either respond to that by, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like, in order to recognize that thing that's much greater than us, or to realize that thing that's much greater than us, it's a huge responsibility. Or we rise to the occasion and we begin to devote ourselves to that path, right? We follow the path of devotion, whatever that devotion might be. And in some levels, that's really similar to the story of Radha. Radha recognized on one level the distance from Krishna to her, so to speak. But at the same time, recognized that on one level, there was no separation between herself and Krishna. And so there's a similar process that's going on inside of you, even though it may seem like you're just kind of dealing with the mundane day-to-day stuff, right? What you're really dealing with is a small portion, a little chapter in a great big story. And that great big story is your journey of consciousness. It's this lifetime. Only thing is you might be going through a difficult chapter in association with that. And you recognize that there is a lot that you really have to do right now. And one part of you doesn't really feel like you're up to the challenge. You perhaps feel like you've been jaded in the past. And so why bother now? Why bother, rising to the occasion, putting forward the discipline in order to get the job done? Why bother? Right? That's a good question. Why not just turn back over and hit the snooze on your alarm, right? Well, what is it that you're wanting to achieve? Do you want to always feel empty inside of yourself? Do you want to always feel like you're just not really achieving the things in your life that you really want to achieve? You can choose that if you really want to. If that's what you want with your life, then, more power to you. If you want to live that life of going, sure, I'm just this little incy spider crawling up the spout, so to speak. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. You're just this little incy speck of dust, right, that gets blown away every time a wind sweeps along, and it just moves it to something else, and then you get moved to this other place and all of that stuff, and it just doesn't feel enjoyable at all. You can live like that if you want to. You can live in your smallness, or you can live in your potential. And that choice is yours right now. And it may seem like you have a lot of responsibility that you have to face in order to rise to the occasion, and you do. And I'm not saying that the process is going to be easy, right? As a matter of fact, it might be really difficult. But what I am going to say is that the progress will eventually yield results. Now, as Venus is transiting through Anuradha Nakshatra, basically there is a situation existing where Venus is combust because of its proximity to the sun, and Saturn is combust because of its proximity to the sun. So if you look at what Saturn rules in your own particular horoscope, and if you look at what Venus rules in terms of your own particular horoscope, you'll get a clear idea of what this is about, and you'll get a deeper understanding of what you really need to do in order to rise to the occasion. And again, if you need some help with that process, I do offer several different levels of astrological service that are available through my website. You'll see a link above and also at the end of this video. So what do you need to do? You need to wake up to those areas, right? Sure, it's not enjoyable to kind of get up every morning and recognize that you have this huge sense of responsibility, that you've got a lot on your plate, and to feel like you're kind of burdened underneath this huge crushing weight. But the only way that that weight is going to get off of your shoulders is if you get it off of your shoulders. Now, when Venus is close to the sun, basically it makes us feel vulnerable. And we feel vulnerable to the extent that we compensate, and we develop this negative sense of pride in order to deal with it. And that can manifest in a few different ways. It can manifest in a way of going, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to kind of be lazy and just go, you know what, I know I need to do that, but you know what, forget about that. Screw that. I'm not going to do it, right? That's one way that it can happen. That's the, negative sense of pride, right? And Saturn, when Saturn is combust, Saturn just feels overwhelmed. And there's a reason for that. If you recognize that the sun represents the soul, right? And Venus and Saturn are having to contend with the hugeness of the soul. And that's a pretty deep thing, right? And so we have this little flash of insight with Anuradha Nakshatra, which helps us to recognize the potential. But then we begin to feel like I'm here and I have to get here. And how do I do that? That's a very long journey. But just remember, every journey starts with one little step. Now, as Venus is transiting through Anuradha Nakshatra, Saturn and Mercury are conjuncting each other in Mula Nakshatra. So there is some potential with this particular transit to go very deep within yourself. But there's also a tendency to try to, for lack of a better way to put it, rebel. to turn over and, like I've been saying all along, to hit that snooze button and just go, you know what? Forget about it. Forget all the responsibility. Forget all of these things. I'm just going to be lazy and, climb back under the cover and just hide from my life. But that's not going to help. What is going to help is beginning to get the job done. Devoting yourself to the tasks that you have ahead of yourself. Seeing yourself as small, seeing yourself as limited is a distorted perspective. There's much greater potential that's open to you in the moment, and you just have to accept the responsibility of rising to the occasion. That's going to do it for this short look at Venus's transit through Anuradha Nakshatra. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.